Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It's the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black in and shining again. I was probably wrong for going straight to the F word on that live stream that's still going on as I'm recording this with Top Cats. But I want to give a word of advice to the Hebrew Israelites. If he's one of yours, or if he's one of the more Science Temple guys, I'll give a word of advice to y'all, whichever one he belongs to. Top Cats that went on is now, at this point, debating with a white guy called Of Aaron C on Taz's live stream. I swore at him. Actually, you know what? I should have done a lot worse when I think about it. But I want to give y'all a bit of advice. This guy's making y'all look bad. Your doctrine is difficult enough. It's beyond even the difficulty that you would attribute to what I believe. Many of you might say, oh, well, Blackheart, you believe that you believe in a God called Allah, and you believe that this Arab man was the prophet. And yeah, but he's saying that African Americans have no connection to Africa. In the same breath, he's saying we went and civilized Europe, but we have no connection to Africa. Okay, which one is it? Are we Moors or not? Moors were Africans. But he's ranting and not letting people speak, just cutting everybody off like he's just so smart and everybody else is so stupid. That is the definition of the word nigger, and that is the stereotype of the nigger. This guy, whoever he belongs to, he making y'all look bad. This guy here, and that's the reason I had to go on. I was there to go in on the white guy intelligently, but to go in on him in the style that Malcolm would have done. And when I went to tell Taz, listen, thanks for having me, but I didn't get a chance. The bus is about to leave. I'll come back later if that's okay. He started jumping in on me, not even realizing I wasn't the same guy he was just talking to. He couldn't even tell our voices apart because he wasn't listening. This is a nigger, jigaboo, porch monkey, spear chucker, Tarzan chaser. All them stereotypes that they have about us and they've had on the television, this guy fits them. He first got on there talking and he sounded like a prison philosopher to begin with. And we black folk have a habit of thinking that real wisdom only comes through having gone through a nigger phase. And then when you preach the wisdom, you got to still sound like a street nigger. There's a stereotypical way you have to sound. I'm all for sounding black, but this dude sound like he learned everything on a cell block. That's not going to work for us. Now, I have seen older black folks burn the F out and decide they are done with the struggle because of specifically that. This guy is just like that. I was not his enemy. I did not agree with him. I do not agree with him, but I didn't go on as his enemy. What wound up happening later was that I became his enemy. Now I am his enemy. And I hope the Ku Klux Klan gets a hold of a nigga like him. It ain't because I hate his very intention. It's not because I even necessarily hate his platform, although I disagree. It is because he's going to make us look dumb. There were people much smarter than him in that chat room, and not one of them clicked the link to come on that I know of. I'm smarter than this guy, and I am of normal intelligence for someone my age, regardless of race. This guy is the one that is out there on them corners, preaching this stuff, interrupting people, shouting everybody down, even when they try to bring in facts. When you listen to a Muslim, now I want you to stop and think about this. We are very convinced. By definition, we're very convinced of what we believe. You will see Muslims in debates, and the Christian will get up and say that Jesus is God and the Son of God. I seek refuge from ever believe in this. And the Muslim will reply when he is finished, so as to they don't interrupt each other in these debates. That's how a guy named Ahmed Deedat became famous. Just floored him. Malcolm let the opposition finish their sentence. Then Malcolm went in. What do many of us do? And it ain't just MST or the Hebrew Israelites. What do many of us black folks do in general? Because another guy did something similar. But he had nothing on Top Cats. At least with this other guy, when we said to him, can he finish? At least he began to let him finish later on. And he even said, when I don't let them finish, it's because of X, Y, and Z. They've been in here and they become very predictable. But Top Cats was something else. He was so busy, he didn't even listen to the difference between my voice and the other guy's voice. Assuming that I was white, dude jumped in on me. Wait, hold up, bro. I'm not him. I came to actually, I was here to debate against him. I'm not the white dude. He interrupted me, and that's when I cursed him. And you know what? I'm going to start doing this every time. Because really, in all honesty and truth, the fine line between an argument and a fist fight starts with the interruption. Human beings are wired this way. There's a reason why we tend to do that. You can argue with someone, you can disagree. When you just cut them off, everything they say is automatically wrong before they even get a chance to say it. That's when people start to react with violence. Or they leave you, but they can't continue that way. And right now, as it is, the dumbest white folks that their population has to offer, they've been doing this for a long time. Guess what? Those are the same white folks other white folks don't want to deal with. The dumbest Arabs, the Bedouins, do the same thing. And they fight with each other in the street sometimes over dumb stuff like traffic accidents. They had to have insurance for everybody because otherwise they would have been stabbing each other in the streets out here. They get into arguments. Family members kill each other sometimes in family arguments here because when they get to arguing, everybody's cutting everybody else off. Nobody can give any information. The guns come out. And then the government has to kill someone because the killing was within the family. And families can pay blood money to each other to get one of their own off for murder, but or the family of the victim can say, we're not taking blood money, you kill the killer. They could do this when it's within the family. How they gonna pay themselves blood money? Now you got to kill the murderer. These things happen here. It doesn't start because people have difference of opinion. It starts when they interrupt. I saw a video. Somehow there was a home video of two Pakistanis in England. They were arguing over family property in Pakistan. I don't understand what they were saying. What I do know is they started interrupting each other, and that's when one of them pulled out a knife, and later on the police came and picked him up and arrested him. He's now facing a life sentence in prison because he stabbed several people and stabbed them to death. They were his family members. It is not the difference of opinion that gets people. It is the constant interruption. All the time. You could tell people stuff that they've never heard before. You have no business acting like they heard this before, or like this was just readily available for them and they should have known that it was there when it wasn't. I can't even do this with my own faith, even though it's been in some textbooks, probably just a paragraph devoted in some textbooks, others a whole chapter. But even though this has been somewhat taught and covered in many school curriculums in the United States most of my life, the fact remains that a lot of people don't know a lot of details about it. And I can explain it to them, but I cannot sit up and start interrupting them every time they start a sentence. And that's exactly what happened. I don't really care about of, air, and sea. I think he probably, in his mind, he means well, but he's not going to accept certain things, there's a certain guilt that his society must have and certain bad things they deserve to have happen to him, or to them, I should say. But nonetheless, this was a day when a nigger was worse than a diet white supremacist. I could have actually learned more from this white guy than I could have from Top Cats. Top Cats never proved that we're not from Africa in the first place. Not since I've started this recording. Now, I got to get on this bus, so I'm on my way to it. I wasn't able to stay on the show, but I can tell you, black folks, even though I am actually pro-black, which is why I tell even SYSB men to please, for the safety of their children, leave alone, and for the safety of black folks who don't mean any harm, leave alone people whose communities don't respect us as equals. But I cannot join many of your circles for exactly this reason. Now, when I go into the circles of the IPMOR and the SYSBM that are not necessarily pro-black, they at least try to take turns talking. Edward admits that he talks a lot, but he admits this. And if you say, wait, he didn't finish his point, he'll probably let you go. This guy, Top Cats, does not even know the value of letting someone finish a sentence when they disagree with you. Top Cats just wanted to dominate somebody. And this is a sign of trauma. This is something that happens to a lot of people. When people have been oppressed in one way or another, this manifests itself even generations after the oppression supposedly ended. Egyptians are famous for this. Now, they were colonized, but they're famous among all North Africans for this. They just have to be in a position of authority. If they have authority, they're going to wear it and cut you off and interrupt you. And they just always have to talk down to you once they get some authority. This is the way that they're known. Now, not every Egyptian's like that, of course. But the reputation they have is this. It's like a reaction. And some people have even said to them, wait a minute. Sometimes when they want to shut one of them up, they say, hold up, man. I'm not the British colonial officer. That's what happens. That's how they may say this to them. Now, in Mexico, you have some people like that. They just got to talk down to folks. You know what they say to people like that in Mexico? Where is your blonde hair and your blue eyes? That's their way to say, how dare you talk to me like this? Something similar even among the Egyptians. People here don't talk to them that much. I don't talk to the ones I don't know. As soon as I hear their dialect and they can't pronounce the letter J correctly, I walk off. I got a bias. It's not based on DNA. It is based on what they act like. Until someone can vouch for an individual, this guy's fair and just. He cool. Okay, I can deal with him. But that's not the default when I come across them. I have to be biased with the ones I don't know. Until someone can vouch for his character, he's just an Egyptian. I have to be this way because of the chances that I'm going to run into one of exactly them. And they can make a decision that would have some kind of effect on me. I never got a driver's license in the country in which I live because of some of them working in the office, telling me a doggone lie. They wanted to take the license that I had from the States and sell it. That's what it was. So they're trying to tell me I would have had to surrender it. I can't get that back if I use it to get a license from here. No, that's not the way that works. But they were standing on a lie. They got a friend of mine into a car accident, damaged his legs and cost another friend $25,000 because they stood on a lie and swore to God. And would never come out and say to the court, we actually lied and deceived them in the procedure, which led to the car accident and this insurance fiasco. Top Cats is one of those guys. Be glad that he does not believe he's from Africa, because America, white America, did do this to him, but he'll never learn to undo this to himself. He is one of those that Marcus Garvey meant when he said that there are some Negroes, and I'm quoting Marcus now, that there are some Negroes that are no good over here, meaning in the United States at the time he was talking, and they would likewise be no good back in Africa. That's him. I make no apologies for how I abused him and for asking Allah to curse him. None. Because if he had simply listened to the voice and let me finish the sentence, he would have realized, one, I was somebody different anyway. He would have heard me say to Taz, I'll come back later if that's okay with you. And he would have realized I wasn't even addressing him and there was no smoke till he started interrupting me. That's what he would have found out. I'm not going to sit up and talk trash because I live an ocean and a continent away. I don't plan to go back this summer. I just informed my family I'm not going back this coming summer vacation. So it's going to be a long time before I'm back in the States again. A long time. I'm working on getting my kids with me, not going back there. That being said, that's why I didn't talk trash to him. But if somebody gets into an argument with someone like him and they're armed, You don't have to pray the person shoots him. That's exactly what's going to happen. And sometimes there actually are police officers that are talking to some of you, white or black, and they don't. They're doing what they're doing because they were called. Somebody got they got a phone call. You start interrupting them every time they talk. They can't finish a sentence, and they just get frustrated because they deal with this all day. That is when you are asking to be shot. That's when you are provoking it, when you're just constantly cutting them off. Not because you disagree, but you're cutting them off all the time. They can't finish a sentence, and they got a gun. A regular, rational human being with a weapon may very well pull that out and cut your throat or blow your brains out before they realize what happened. I would actually let people off if there's video proof that somebody was just constantly interrupting like him and they got shot. I would, if it was up to me, I'd say all I need is some video proof or some evidence from multiple witnesses. We'll cross-examine them. And if that really turns out to be the story that checks out, I'm going to let the accused off. He's going home for dinner, regardless of the race of the shooter or the one that got shot. The redneck hillbilly is the one that will do this type of stuff. But let's just be honest, we're actually far worse than them. We really are about that particular thing. Whatever group you belong to, you got to curb niggas like this from representing you until they learn this. Even the NOI is better. They are much better than this. Even the NOI, and they believe in super Negroes on some spaceship up in orbit somehow with an Air Force that's never been used, quite ironically, to liberate us. They believe this, but when it comes to debating, they learn to take turns. Before they become ministers that can address crowds and speak to them, they learn, before they're allowed to go and debate with others, they learn to take turns. Even Khalid Muhammad was trained for that. Malcolm learned this. Actually, Malcolm started off that way, but I'm sure they told him that was part of the program. They learn to take turns talking. Let them shred themselves. Let them give you the rope to hang them with when they're talking. Nobody told Top Cats this. And this nigga's out here representing whichever one of you he's representing. I pretty much tell us either Hebrew Israelites or More Science Temple. If there's a third or fourth group that has a similar platform, please let me know so that I can learn something. Because if it's another group and someone can show me what it is or show me his name in that group, I would then say, okay, I learned something new. Thank you. I'll stand corrected. It's not you guys that got, whoever it is though right now, y'all got to go and tell this dude, listen, you are not fit to be trying to represent us. You're still a nigga with a little bit of knowledge. You're still in the nigga phase. You still want to dominate people because black folks got dominated by somebody else. Because the dude's white, you want to get up in his face. No. All you got to do is let him talk and then attack the fallacies he's standing on. You pull apart the stage because of the holes in it. That's what you do. The person standing on the stage falls. You want to stop them from even saying anything when they're on the stage and then say, yeah, I won that one. I showed him. No, you showed that you a nigga. Now, there were times that Taz did this before. But this time, Taz didn't do that. That was smart. This time, they took turns talking. And I was actually quite impressed. But see, the thing is, I never had to go in on of air and sea and air. I never had to. There was no opportunity. And this is what I was talking about when I said earlier that my greatest lament about being black is that you almost never have to fight with a real true white supremacist. You almost never have to. It's the nigga, not even a black person, but the jigaboo porch monkey, Tarzan chasing, tree swinging, loincloth wearing, coconut cracking stereotype nigga. He watches TV when he's a kid. He believes the stereotypes. He gets older, gets a little bit of knowledge, but he's still in the back of his mind believes the stereotype. Oh, I still got that real nigga in me. That's why you talk like a nigga. Not like a black man. First off, denying you African. Like even partially. He didn't even say he was a mix of like the original black Americans and African, which I've actually heard some people say. No, he didn't even say that. No, what you talking about Africa? But then he gonna say we the more civilized Europe because he is a nigger. And niggers don't like to be associated with black, wide-nosed, big-lip West Africa. I make no apologies for this, and I'm not debating him because there's nothing, you can't debate when someone's just constantly talking and cutting you off. If he said, I promise I'm going to give you, I'll take turns speaking. No, The issue is, why didn't you do that the first time? Just like what we tell a lot of these ladies that come up to us with somebody else's kids. Well, how come you ain't going to look after me and my kids from some other man? We're like, why didn't you have this pliable and compliant and submissive or at least cooperative attitude before you became a single mother of someone else's kids? It's too late now. You could join the struggle. You could contribute to the development of black people now at this point if your schedule will allow it, but you can't come along and win a man or win a stepfather for your kids on the basis of that, on the strength of that. That's what we say to them, and that's why I'd say to him, that chance, if you wanted to debate with me, I don't think he does, but if he ever did want to, that chance is over. My verdict on him is this is a nigger. He believes the stereotypes in the back of his mind still, and he can't change that. Unless over time I happen to see him on somebody else's live stream or panel, and he's willing to actually take turns talking and then shred his opposition based on the points they made. When I see that, then I would say, okay, now he's graduated from the nigger phase. But I want to tell you in the audience, if you're listening and you're B1, and you can't stand IBMOR or SYSBM, or if you're SYSBM and you can't stand IBMOR, whichever one you're on, don't make yourself look stupid like that. And then talk about you representing black something. No. What you're going to do is you're going to make your folk look stupid. Not just in front of other people. You're going to make your folk look stupid even in front of your people, because a lot of us ain't on that BS. If you have that mindset, I'm just going to cut everyone else off all the time. You are one of those people that Garvey said needs to stay in the States. And when Garvey said that you needed to stay behind in the States, what Garvey meant was you need to stay behind when we leave for safety reasons and these white folks find you without us behind you. That's really what he meant at that time. Because the whole reason for repatriation was that we not only came from Africa against our will, but it was one of the only places we could go to be safe. We were never going to get full-fledged safety and equal rights in the Americas, especially in majority white areas like the U.S. and Canada. That's what Garvey was getting at. Everybody knew that. Garvey was not the first one to talk about repatriation. You had some state representatives in the state of Georgia during the Reconstruction period who went into that later on because they were pretty much voted out after they had won elections fair and square when Reconstruction ended. And they said, we'll never have equality here. We're going back home. And some of them went to Liberia. And this is at a time when lynchings were going on. There were some black folk in Arkansas that because of lynchings and race riots wanted to go back to Liberia. So the point is that before Garvey was on that repatriation stuff, before he got there, it was understood among black folks that were on that going back home meant you were fleeing from the danger of living with a bunch of white folk. And now Top Cats is saying, or proving rather, that he is unfit to go back home. He is one of those that even in the pro-black circles, we're going to have to filter out because he is still a nigger. He ain't been deniggerized yet. Everybody interrupts somebody sometimes, but suppose that this had been in person and somebody had a gun and was dealing with a lot of stress in their life. He'd have got himself shot. Suppose he had a gun and someone did it to him and he couldn't tolerate it. He's actually more likely to shoot someone than he is to be shot if he carries a weapon. And that's probably what would have wound up happening. Then he's in prison for life fighting niggas off of him in the shower, trying to protect his booty.
We got to do better. Whatever it is that you represent, if you're going to tell your people to engage with others and try to spread the knowledge, have them take turns talking first. If your argument cannot survive that, then that means that you don't have an argument. I hope that what I've said one day will no longer be true. In the meantime, I hope it benefits you. Blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media. Signing black out. Assalamu alaikum.